Welcome to Conversations from Stritch Hall. It features host Dr. Schackmuth and his special guest, Lewis University Provost and President-elect, Dr. Christopher Sindt.
Welcome to Conversations from Stritch. Today is Thursday, March 5th. I'm Schackmuth, Vice President for Student Life and Chief Mission Officer. After a thorough national search, the Board of Trustees unanimously decided that Dr. Christopher Sindt is the right fit to be Lewis University's 11th president. Dr. Sindt's exceptional record of leadership, his deep commitment to our Catholic and Lasallian mission, and his clear vision for the future of Lewis distinguished him as the ideal choice. Since joining Lewis University in 2018, Dr. Sindt has served with extraordinary distinction as provost, overseeing academic affairs, enrollment management, student life, athletics, and campus safety. He's played a central role in advancing the university's strategic plan, strengthening student success, expanding academic innovation, and leading key initiatives that position Lewis for continued growth and impact. Under his leadership, Lewis achieved a successful 10-year reaccreditation term from the Higher Learning Commission, launched multiple new academic programs, expanded international partnerships, and supported major institutional milestones, including the merger with St. Augustine College and the growth of sponsored research and fundraising efforts. You can email a question to us today at askus@lewisu.edu. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you, Kurt. Thanks for that long introduction. I really appreciate it. I want to say it's really exciting to be here. I have literally never sat in this chair before after 6 years of helping to co-host this Conversations from Stritch, and I have new empathy for all of the guests that we've had to sit in the couch seat of the show.
Well, don't get too comfortable because you'll be in this one pretty soon. So this is an exciting moment for you, obviously, and I want to start with a very serious question. Have you told your wife?
That's very funny. Yeah, that's part of the job is a change. You know, certainly my wife Lee and our family, our two children, have been a part of my job as provost. They've been on campus many times, and certainly many people who here know them. But it is a different level of responsibility for families connected to the presidency. And so it is something that Lee and I had, some long talks about in preparation, and it's been really meaningful. She's excited. She has a full-time job, and so sometimes it's thinking through like what the responsibilities of a presidential spouse are serious. Lewis is really generous and great about having real flexibility there, but I think she's excited for some of the same reasons that I'm excited to get to meet more people, get to be part of something that's, has this incredible mission and all these different specific ways that it plays out in the community, I think is what makes her most excited about being a part of it. I did not tell my children until it was a couple days before it was announced, and our daughter is a first-year student in college, and so that was a Zoom conversation, and I told my son the same day, and they were happy for me, not, I don't think, super surprised, and they have never talked about, that was about 10 days ago, and they have never brought it up since. So I think they're focused on other things.
Of course, yes.
But, it's been a positive thing for the family.
So in all serious note, though, has the magnitude of this hit you yet?
Probably not, yeah. It's definitely something that will happen in waves, and as we make the transition. It's really, I think, great for all of us that the transition is happening now and can kind of spread through the spring and into the summer, as opposed to starting in July and just kind of showing up on a campus. It allows us to be thoughtful about it, but it also means I'm continuing to do the current position of provost, which is really a busy job in the spring, this month and next month. So the two things are kind of helping me not fully, think through all the different dimensions, which is maybe healthy. I'm not sure.
There's certainly an advantage of being an internal candidate is that you have this ability to kind of gradually move into the position, and you've had the opportunity to kind of witness and work alongside President Livingston as he's lived out the role of president. Being a president, though, is a tough job. It's a very challenging role, and there are certainly, presidencies open at lots of other universities around the country. Is this something you've always wanted to do, be a president?
Yeah, I think it's been certainly something I've wanted to do in recent years, and I've been really inspired by President Livingston's example and watching the way he does it, being able to talk to him about his decision making and thinking, or just being around him through all the stuff that we have accomplished and been through in the last 8 years that I've been here, has helped me really be able to visualize it and feel confident about it. I think, like a lot of academic people, I think I probably went through a phase where I thought, well, being the provost is the best thing for somebody with my background, and it's where my expertise is, and so on. And I think as I've gotten older, I've been more interested in the broader perspective of what a president is, and feel more confident about being able to embrace the responsibilities. But also, one part of it that I think about a lot is I'm really looking forward to the people part of it, and getting to have more time in my day connected to donors and alumni and students outside of just the particular things that are going on in my work as a provost. And I think that is something that's changed in the way I feel about life, in terms of, as I've gotten older, I'm just much more patient and interested in people, and I think that will help with the job. Yeah.
Dr. Livingston often says that the president's role is to look outward, and the provost's role is to look inward in terms of the university. So that's kind of you have to swivel, you have to do a shift now, and it sounds like you're already kind of prepared for that kind of switch.
Yeah, I'm excited about that part, and as you know, it's not completely black and white in terms of that, and I certainly have lots of opportunities to look outward now in my job, and enough to feel like confident that that's something I want to do more of. And I know also as president, and he would agree with me that he does look inward sometimes as well, and feels, especially around the kind of budget of the university and things like that there's real oversight, but at the same time allowing the great professionals that we have here to do their work.
So let's rewind a little bit. You came here in 2018. And you're in the Chicago area now, but for 8 years or so, but you're a native Californian. So could you just say a little bit more about your upbringing and what brought you here?
Yeah, I grew up in a small town in Northern California. It's actually between two small towns in Northern California, Auburn and Nevada City. Way out in the country. It was my family. I have 5 siblings. So we had a very crowded house, but a lot of land around us. I grew up walking around in the natural world, often in that environment. It's the area of the United States that if people who are not from California identify it, it's called the Gold Country. It's the area where gold was discovered in California. And I grew up walking around the rivers and the natural world where in that gold country. It's about an hour drive from Lake Tahoe, and so people often think I lived around palm trees and 80-degree weather, but I'm somewhat familiar with winter from where I grew up. But did I answer the whole question?
Yeah, so say a little bit about your high school experience and eventually making the decision to go to college and to select a major and a career opportunity.
Okay, so yeah, I grew up in a Catholic household, but there were not a lot of options for school. I went to public elementary schools, and my high school was in the town of Auburn, one of those 2 towns. So kind of typical suburban high school, I guess, outside, not too far from Sacramento, California. I was an athlete in high school. I played football and basketball and baseball, and had a little bit of my identity around that, as well as other interests that I had. I went to UCLA. I I think my major was economics when I started, and quickly, I think I learned that there's no such thing as a free lunch, and I don't remember much else, but quickly learned that it wasn't probably the thing I had the most passion for, which was writing and English ultimately. And I know we often talk, you've been on the show before talking about how individual people in students' lives make such a difference in their path, as well as their commitment to staying in college and continue being successful as students. And just reflecting on a tiny bit, like I had many experiences like that with individual professors, especially at a very large public institution in a very large city that was really the first city I'd ever lived in. I had a English composition teacher who was really special, and showed some appreciation for my mind and my writing abilities, and then later, and I became an English major, and then later I had UCLA has a program, or at least it did then, where there were poets on staff like we have here, but there's also had a visiting poet program where there were really great nationally respected poets would come every year and teach like a seminar with some students, and I was really influenced by the people I met in that, and that's really where I started writing poetry as a kind of identity thing, which I have continued to do ever since. And
Did
then
you want to teach? Is that what you wanted to be an English teacher or a writer?
I'm not really sure what. I mean, I definitely had a teaching experience there. I was a tutor. I did a kind of equivalent of what we call community engaged learning, where I tutored people in parts of Los Angeles, like a library in a part of Los Angeles that has a large marginalized population and things like that. So I had that first experience with teaching and impacting people. So yeah, I don't really remember if I fully knew it at that time, but then when I went to graduate school a couple years later, after finishing at UCLA, I went to graduate school at UC Davis and immediately was teaching composition as a young 20s, for someone in my young 20s. And by then I really wanted to be a teacher and a professor.
And obviously shout out to our co-fac colleagues, but I majored in history, you majored in English, and even if you don't pursue a career in that particular discipline, we all know how much it kind of informs and helps us do our work better. And so you're a great writer, and people know that, and obviously your experience in college helped to contribute to that for sure.
We're going to remind people to go to the COFAC kickback later
Right.
at the end today, but I try to give a slightly different welcoming speech every year, but it's hard because I really love to share with, especially students in the arts, especially in addition to the discipline and the human interaction that you get when you study in the humanities, but also I really feel like my experience as a creative artist in poetry, in my case, has really informed my ability to be a leader and to be an administrator. It's kind of counterintuitive, I think, to some people if you haven't lived that life, but artists are have to try different things, and fail all the time is one characteristic. So you have to say yes to most ideas, which I think has helped me a lot in my career. And artists are also extremely disciplined in terms of just doing the work every day and practicing at those types of things.
So are you still practicing your writing today?
Certainly less than I've ever in my life. I like to think I do. In my mind, I do. I read a lot. I published my last book right before coming here to be the provost, and it really hasn't. That was really a break of sorts. I think partially because of the workload, and then maybe it's just the change of scenery. I'm a very place-oriented writer, and I haven't felt quite that connection, but I do not definitely feel like I never am going to feel like I'm done with it. I'm sure I'll pick it up again.
So you eventually found yourself at St. Mary's College of California.
Okay.
And that was the beginning of your kind of becoming LaSallian. Can you say a little bit about that experience?
Yeah, so like I said, I went to all public schools from grade school to college. I went to 2 different University of California campuses in my college experience. So I'd really never been on a campus of a Catholic institution, a private institution probably, maybe not very much by that time in my life. And I applied to work at St. Mary's. I certainly understood that it was a Catholic institution, but I really applied there. There was a job opening. It was close to where I lived, where my family was from. I really respected some of the professors there, but really didn't understand anything about the mission of the institution until I was literally getting interviewed for the job. Unlike nowadays, both St. Mary's and Lewis probably have changed a lot in those years in terms of educating people about the mission while they're going through the application process. So it really wasn't until I started and I really started teaching. I think the first experience I had was just how incredibly confident and talkative students were in the classes that I taught, and that had to do with that. I mean, I realize now in retrospect that had to do with that kind of high level of relational pedagogy or teaching styles that LaSallian educators have. The students just felt really like they felt seen. You could tell that they had felt confident and had been seen by in all their other classes before the ones they had with mine, and I was sort of like, yeah, I can do this. This is great, you know. And I had been used to kind of lecturing in front of larger groups and or having more difficulty having conversation and teaching classes I taught before that. So that's part of it. I think and then slowly I learned, you know, through the lay preparation that the brothers were going through worldwide and nationally, but you know, the way that it played out on that campus. And that was just the very beginning, and you can probably contextualize this history, but you know, this is 2000 probably when this was happening. So it felt like it was the very beginning of this really big effort to educate the lay populations of the different LaSallian institutions. So I was a huge beneficiary of that. I got to I just signed up for all of those educational experiences and learned about the tradition and learned about the values underpinning the mission and how it connects to the Catholic faith. And all of that was really inspiring to me. And, you know, really all of a sudden it just felt like, oh, this is the place where I should be. This has always been where I should be. And I never knew I was on my way to it, you know, and that was whatever that math is, 25 years ago.
It just occurred to me that I was on the campus of St. Mary's College, attending the Buttimer Institute at the same time that you were an employee there teaching. But you started out teaching, but then you eventually moved into some dean's role, right? And then some academic administrative roles. So you kind of moved up the ladder, so to speak. Yeah,
I was almost always an administrator there in a way, because I was a professor, but I was hired to direct the creative writing program. While I was in graduate school, I had I helped run a nonprofit literary organization that does a summer writing workshop, and so I had more like I'd balanced a budget before and things like that, so I had more administrative experience than most new assistant professors. So I was given that position of directing, and that was my introduction into the way universities kind of worked from the administrative side, and so I did that for I think 7 years, and then I became associate dean of our School of Liberal Arts, and then I went on to be a dean and vice provost for graduate studies first, and then for academic affairs right before I left. So a range of different jobs, but while I was a director of the MFA program, I participated in shared governance. We had wasn't the Senate, but a educational, kind of like a equivalent of our undergraduate, what's it called, UAC, undergraduate academic affairs, but it was sort of for the entire university. And I eventually was the chair of that committee, so I had lots of experience with elected shared governance, and was very active in that area, and that helped me. I think a lot of professors become administrators because they like to fix problems that are happening at the university that they work at, and then and then they realize there's a whole job where you get to do that. And so that's what that evolution was really like.
So you have this great series of experiences at St. Mary's College, and then the opportunity arises to become the provost at Lewis. What was particularly appealing to you about Lewis back in 2018?
Well, first of all, I knew many people who worked here, because we're sister institutions. I don't think we had ever met before that, but I had certainly met Stephanie before, really between, I had done the Rome leadership program,
yes.
Where I met the team from Lewis who was there at the time, and actually spent quite a lot of time with them, and socially, and got to learn a lot of specifics about the campus or about the university from them. I also regularly attended the annual LaSallian Research Conference in St. Mary's in Minnesota, and so that's where I met Stephanie, and I had met other people from Lewis, and then I also knew Nan Yancey pretty well because we were both graduate deans, and both were pretty active in that national organization, the Council of Graduate Schools. She and I had even done we'd done things together, we'd presented together and things like that. So anyway, I felt like even though I wasn't super familiar with the campus, I felt like I knew the ethos of the place and the people who worked here. So that just made me a lot more comfortable in applying and thinking about coming. And then when I came, I was just really blown away by it. Like most visitors to Lewis, I was really blown away by the beauty of the campus and the facilities and the size and scope of the place, and just all the success that had been built up here for really decades by that time.
Yeah, and your experience, I think, really illustrates nicely how important those formation experiences and those conference gatherings where LaSallians can kind of intermix and cross-pollinate, because not that everyone's always looking for a new job, but it's always just nice to have a network within the LaSallian network that connects you to those other institutions, and clearly you benefited from that. Yeah,
and I know we both have benefited tremendously still since in these last 8 years from those networks that we both participate in, and it's really rich, both national and international community. It's one of the things I really love about working at Lewis and working at a LaSallian institution is those connections.
That the opening for today's show included this impressive list of accomplishments that you've achieved since you arrived here. If you had to pick one item that you're especially proud of, is there something that comes to mind?
Well, I want to say that all those achievements are done with many other people, as you know. I always get a little embarrassed by that list, and having to talk about those things as if they were my accomplishments, when it was really being a part of a group that has done a lot of great things in these last 10 years or so. I think, I hate the idea of naming one, but I really am proud of the Lewis experience, and I know you've done a lot more work on it than I have. I do feel like it was my idea, because I vividly remember I was on an accreditation visit as a visitor, and saw another institution. I won't name it, but it had what are those flags that hang from poles? Those
banners.
Banners, right? Thank you. That said, the name of the institution, Experience, and then everything everything that they presented to us as visitors was in that framework of, this is the blah blah experience. And I thought, oh, that is so good. And so when we started thinking about a way to fully describe what it's like for undergraduates at Lewis to have this complete experience, and I think initially the Lewis experience was a temporary name that we just thought we'd come up with some flying metaphor or something eventually, but it really stuck, and I love hearing people use that expression. And then I think it's really clearly making a difference now that it's in its third year, rolling out, and having the combination of the success coaches and the experiential learning requirement and the complete the work that had already been happening that you're doing, that connected to vocational discernment or finding that purpose and passion in students' life. So it really is a noticeable difference in not only the way we talk about it, but in the outcomes that are happening with retention and with other outcomes that we're seeing on survey results and so on. So I'm really proud of that, because we're seeing the evidence. And I don't, this is not an interview, so I get to not answer only one thing. So the other thing I'm really proud of is the St. Augustine merger. I'm so happy that we did that. It was a lot of work for many members of our community, and some days I'm sure for some people it just felt like, a lot of patience is required to wait for the end of the process. We literally just had the Higher Learning Commission visit right. Monday and Tuesday of this week, which I think will be the final step of the process. And the thing I'm most excited about is the way our community, the Lewis community, saw in St. Augustine's mission and in the people who work at St. Augustine, just our own mission mirrored in such a beautiful way, and in a new way, a new iteration of it that hadn't been happening necessarily at Lewis, but just made perfect sense to everyone who works here. We heard people complain about how hard it was to do the merger, but we never heard anyone say, "Oh, why are we doing this? This doesn't make any sense," because it makes such perfect sense. And the possibilities that are going to come out of that, having a part of the university, a college at the university that's dedicated to serving the Latinx population of Chicago, and to really becoming or being, living through the history and the heritage of having expertise in bilingual and dual language education is just going to keep paying, I'm very confident is going to keep paying off for decades for the university. So I'm really proud about that.
Good, yeah, and rightfully so. At the risk of sounding like I'm re-interviewing you for the presidency, which I promised I wouldn't do, being the president means that you could easily get kind of pulled away from campus activities and interactions that you've had in the past, and could pull you in some different directions. What are some of your strategies to kind of remain connected with faculty and staff and students in your new role?
Well, I think President Livingston's been a great model for that. I know he certainly travels and is outward focused and does the work that a president has to do, and I will do that. But just last night, you and I and President Livingston were at the FIRE event, which is amazing, beautiful event that is really about the student experience. And I think that's, I'll continue to connect with students. I'm open to suggestions from the community about different ways I can continue to be connected to the people here. But I think it's not that kind of university where I don't think that's a huge risk. I think that's an expectation of the job. As long as the other work is happening, I think it's really grounded in that. You can't really do and I think President Livingston would agree with me, you can't really do the work of talking about the university with the external world without really being in it most of the time.
So there will no doubt be all kinds of things to occupy you here on campus in your new role, but what about at home? What about hobbies? What about the things that kind of sustain you outside of campus, and also kind of re-energize you so that you can come back to work every day ready to tackle whatever it is that needs to be addressed?
Well, certainly my family comes first. Just doing stuff with them, and we like to travel. We like to spend time together. As I said, my daughter's away at college, but still feel really connected as a family unit. And everyone is a parent knows that that's really a really consuming part of life in a wonderful way. I do, and I have very little time, but I still somehow have a lot of hobbies that I don't spend very much time on. I play guitar. I do play guitar regularly. I take guitar lessons. I think it's the only discipline I have, outside of, family and Lewis, is that I do try to actually show up for a guitar lesson once a week. I have it tonight. It's always pretty hard to get there, but I try to get there. And I like, and playing is a nice way to just really focus on something else. It's like a kind of meditation. I'm a woodworker. My father was a woodworker. a wood shop teacher. He was his profession, and so I have a wood shop, and I try to get in there.
What do you build?
I'm not that talented, but I build frames, easy furniture pieces, things like that.
You have all 10 fingers, so you must be good, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's fun. It's a really fun. We have a nice place here to do it, and it's a fun activity. It doesn't have heat, so like this weekend, if I had time, would be a good time to kind of open it up and start working in there again. Yeah.
I've got a couple questions here that I'll call lightning round questions because we're nearing the end of our time together, and I'm just going to shoot these at you one at a time, and I don't want you to think too much. So the first one is, what's your favorite place on campus?
Oh, I've already thought a lot. That's hard. I love the gallery, the Wadsworth. Just being in there always makes me happy. I'm trying to think of something more specific. I really like the upper deck of the Neil Carey, and just being there, especially, I really like being with people, just to be clear, when there's a busy event there or something like that, but I also love going there on a weeknight, watching, a volleyball or basketball when it's relatively less full in there, and just kind of I find peace on that balcony watching our great sports teams play. I love the stage of the theater. Mm-hmm. That sounds, I don't like being in the spotlight necessarily on the stage, just to be clear, but I love the way it feels to stand on that stage. It is a beautiful wood, old-fashioned stage. I just love it. I like I know you said one. This is my fourth and final.
This is your fourth.
The nature trail.
Very good.
It's really cool. I often take walks there.
Okay. The correct answer, by the way, is the Encounter.
Sorry.
That's your favorite place. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, remember that.
What's one of your favorite books? Which is probably something totally unfair to ask you.
Well, I always go back to what I taught. I had to teach over and over again, and I am a modernist scholar, or at least I used to be, and I taught sort of early 20th century literature over and over again. So the books I really would teach repeatedly and still continue to love and find great things in would be James Joyce's Dubliners, To the Lighthouse by Virginia Woolf. Those are probably my two favorites.
Those are great. What's a way that one of the Christian brothers, either at St. Mary's College or Lewis University, has inspired you in your work?
Oh, gosh. There's so many examples of that. I probably think of St. Mary's first because it was such a formative time for me. Sure. Where, certainly, I'll just name, a couple people. Brother Stan Sobczak was the first person who really helped me, who was really willing to just sit down with me and kind of talk about the LaSallian stories and the way that they connect to kind of daily life or to the mission of teaching. And he was a education person. He was the president of Christian Brothers at one point in history, and he was a very wise man. And I was lucky to get to spend time with him pretty late in his life, but for quite a long time, a decade or so, we were there together. Brother Kenneth Cardwell is a wonderful friend, and somebody I would take he would hike. He would do hikes with us, and just amazing birder, and just to see all the different dimensions that he brought to really the Catholic intellectual tradition, and the way that he would connect the brothers' tradition to the kind of deeper understanding of what the Catholic tradition is. And
so clearly my lightning round questions
I can
lack
tell
lightning.
You want me to stop. That was a big question about the impact of the brother. And I just have to say one more. Brother Ronald Gallagher was president of St. Mary's, and so I definitely think about him all the time now in terms of how certainly Brother James is a role model as well, but I was closer to Brother Ronald as a member of the administration while he was president, and just watching the kind of the way, like what I really learned from him is he would approach the cabinet of the university in the same way that, LaSalle would approach going home and sitting and eating with the brothers and kind of talk, like it was sort of felt like we were always just kind of talking over the problems or the challenges of the day or the challenges of the college. And, I think that kind of spirit of that really I try to emulate.
I like that. What's one word you would use to describe Lewis University?
These lightning round questions are hard.
Yes.
I was going to say yes.
Yes, that's one word.
But I have to explain it, right?
Okay, go ahead.
I just feel like, I've said this many times, but I feel like Lewis in particular, outside of the LaSallian context, or maybe it's connected, but it feels really strong here. It's just a place where people have the word yes perched on their lips at all the time. It's just a really open, entrepreneurial place where people are willing to try things. And sometimes they don't work, sometimes they do, but that spirit of, I've never heard anybody say, oh, well, we tried that in 1997 and it didn't work, so I don't want to, it's a pretty common thing at universities, pretty conservative in nature. And this particular university is full of people who are interested in that, in approaching things that way. And that is LaSallian, but I do think it's really strong here.
Yeah, it's uniquely suited to Lewis's history all the way back to the 30s. And I think we've always been open to opportunities. And so I think that's well reflected in what you just shared.
Yeah.
Well, last question here in the lightning round. What are you most looking forward to as president?
Oh, I think maybe I've already mentioned it, just getting to know more, having it in my job description that I have to get to know more people and learn more about all the different members of the Lewis community and how the university has impacted their lives. Really excited about that. These jobs, we've talked about this on the show before, President Livingston and I. Already being the provost of this university is an incredible privilege. It's, just getting access to so many different things that are going on such a vibrant campus, and feeling like it's our right to go to events and to go to sporting events, and just watching all the great work that's happening here. And I get to experience that as provost, but I think I really look forward to even more of that as president.
So today, March 5th, you have a title of provost and president-elect. What happens next in terms of the provost role?
We've had kind of making preliminary decisions or conversations about that. One thing we know for sure is that the timeline for choosing a permanent provost, which really requires, similar to the presidential search, an external search that has many lengthy stages in terms of producing a job description, advertising nationally, going through the process of getting applicants, and then the multiple stages of review. We just don't have time to go through that before July when the contract would start. So we're going to do that whole process next year. So a permanent provost will start on July 1st of 2027. And then in the meantime, we'll have an interim provost, and we're just beginning conversations about how to fill that role.
Sounds good. And so the next step is the inauguration.
Okay, so I think you know more about inaugurations than I do.
So the last time we did an inauguration was in 2016 when Dr. Livingston became president, and that was the first time we had done an inauguration in 28 years. So we learned how to do it, and in conversations that you and I have had recently, we're leaning towards an October inauguration, so October of this year, 2026, and we're going to spend some time developing the committee. Dr. Jason Kelleher and I are going to co-chair that committee and bring together people from around the university to develop what I think will be an exciting and really meaningful ceremonies filled with some symbolism and also kind of touches that you want to lend to the ceremony to make it uniquely about your experience and about the students and about our Lewis community. So it should be a really great experience. Universities don't usually get to do these that often, so it could be a great experience for our community.
That sounds great. And I just listening to you talk about it makes me excited. And, I really like the parts about how it's about the whole community and about involving students and involving all the members of our community. And it will also be an opportunity to just sort of speak together, I hope, about our aspirations as a university for the future. We didn't really talk too much about kind of where we're going as an institution. I don't think we need to, but I just want to say one thing, which is I'm super excited about the strategic planning process that's going on right now, and I really want to encourage people to participate. We've had over 140 people attend the first two events that have listening sessions really for the strategic plan, and I don't feel like I have a particular influence even on these pillars. I mean, I know I've been communicating about it and helping steward the process throughout the year, but I think it's such a result of so many people's contributions and opinions, and I love that because I also love how it looks already in terms of what those pillars are, really emphasizing how to be a place where all of our employees are engaged and feel connected to the place and the mission and the future, being a place where we're entrepreneurial in the academic areas and really attending to emerging technologies and all other kinds of ways that we need to evolve as an academic institution, and really attending to the creativity and the enterprising aspects of growing as an institution, growing enrollment, and finding new ways to be efficient and be a well-run institution, is how a LaSallian would say it.
That's right, yeah.
So I'm really excited about it. So please participate in that.
Thanks for answering all my questions today.
It was my pleasure.
Hope it was an opportunity for our community to get to know you in maybe a little different way.
Yeah.
And I'm going to turn things back over to you because this is really your show, not mine.
Yeah, so we just want to make a couple of announcements in closing today. Just 3 or 4 things. Remember that March 26th is the annual Day of Giving. The 24-hour celebration is the day. We'll have a show that day here, but we'll also celebrate all day long on the campus, where we invite the Lewis community to come together and support students, academic programs, athletics, and the university's mission to prepare these wonderful students and graduates that we have. You can make a gift online or stop by Stritch Hall on March 26th to give in person. We will have a celebration in the sunroom as we have done the last few years on that day. A couple things coming up this week before the next show. The 2026 TEDx Lewis University program will take place on Tuesday, March 10th, 7 p.m. It's always amazing. Philip Lynch Theater continues our tradition of bringing the TEDx stage to campus. This year's program builds on the momentum of the previous years by spotlighting ideas that reflect Lewis University's mission. It features 5 newly published talks by our community members, both faculty and staff, students and alumni, and friends of the university, that spotlight timely themes such as ethical leadership, thoughtful decision-making, community-centered education, personal identity, and resilience. And as we said, the COFAC Kickback is this Saturday night. High energy campus celebration. It's one of the greatest events of the year. Brings everyone together across multiple arts and performance spaces for music, fun, shared experiences. The whole Fine Arts building is opened up. We just had a show about it a few weeks ago. And it is a really amazing spotlight on our students, from highlighting visual design, art and design, and interactive elements like raffles and photo opportunities. And it's positioned as a community building showcase that highlights the culture, the art, and the music and student engagement of COFAC. And then one last thing, good luck to all of our student athletes competing this weekend. Big match for men's volleyball tonight and again on Saturday against Purdue Fort Wayne tonight and Ball State on Saturday. You can go to the Ball State game and then go to the COFAC Kickback in the same afternoon and evening. And then tomorrow at noon, our women's basketball team is taking on McKendree in the first round of the GLVC tournament. So tune in and support our flyers in the GLVC tournament. So thanks for spending part of your day with us. Thank you so much, Kurt, for doing this. Until next time, take care, stay connected, and we'll see you again next week.